Okay, I will call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. with Trustee Addison absent, and Trustee Candelaria Orr is also absent. Public comments on closed session items. At this time, any person may address the board on any closed session item or any item not listed on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act. The board cannot consider issues or take action on requests during this comment period. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. Did we receive any online or public comment online? We don't have online. Oh, we don't. Oh, thank you. I don't see anyone. Therefore, we will move into closed session items. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and name of case AOAH, case number TBA. C2, public employee performance evaluation, superintendent. C3, conference and labor negotiations. Tax, CSCA, unrepresentative, and management. With that, I move us into closed session at 5:02. We will reconvene to open session at 6:08. And if we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by trustee Lopez White for the approval of the agenda and a second by trustee Garrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. The board reserves the right to change the order in which the agenda... Oh, I forgot to read it. I'm sorry. Okay. G, public comment on consent and non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent or non-agenda item pursuant to the Brown Act. During this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. If anyone has a public comment on consent or non-agenda items, if you can please form a line behind the podium. I am seeing no one. Moving on to closed session, reportable action taken. No reportable action to report. Okay, special recognition. Recognition of Julie Lawson, Big Picture Learning National Advisor of the Year.
So, as you know, the Big Picture Learning is a program that is a nationwide program. Unfortunately, Ms. Lawson's not able to be here, but she was recognized by the National Association to be the Advisor of the Year for the Big Picture Learning. So she will be receiving that award in Memphis this summer. And it's a pretty big deal, obviously, that she got that. So we wanted to get her recognized. She did find out about it last week, I think it was. Yeah, that they came up and then and told her that. So
that's not just county or state, that's
the whole United
country.
States.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. Her and another person got it. They have kind of a big school and then a smaller school one. So yeah, it's a pretty outstanding offer or award that she got. So yes, she knew we were going to mention her tonight, and she was out of town. She's also kind of excited she was out of town. So yes.
Okay. Congratulations, Julie Lawson. Okay. Consent calendar. The Cloverdale Unified School Board of Trustees utilizes a consent calendar for items that require the approval of the board but are of routine nature. They act upon these items in one vote. Any member may remove an item for additional questions. Board members receive their agendas and backup materials 7 days in advance of our meetings. They have the opportunity to ask questions and to do research prior to our meetings. It is their intent to handle the routine items expeditiously, so they have time to address issues that are more serious. With that,
I have two things.
that you would like to pull?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just I wanted clarification.
Okay. Which number on the J?
Number 5,
Okay.
and there was just a typo on the summer school, which is 11.
11. Would you like to say your typo?
The typo is just, it's Danielle Bird, not Daniel Bird. So that's an easy correction. And then on number 5, it's the release time MOU. Number 3, I don't know if I'm not understanding it, but it says tax shall make the payment set forth in paragraph 2 regardless of the staff member's attendance. In no ever shall. I didn't understand that. If I
It's probably in no event.
is it just a typo also in the contract?
Three-quarters of the way down the first page.
Page 20.
It's probably not going to change any. Yeah, it's probably not going to change anything, but I just didn't.
Oh, yeah, great question.
I think it's in no event.
And
Right, correct.
okay, I just didn't.
Good, thank you for that.
Okay. So with that correction, I move to approve.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm going to stop saying legal and send it to you.
Are you moving to approve?
So
all
with
of
the
them?
corrections of the typos in item 5 and item 11, I move to approve consent 1 through 12.
I'll second.
Can we do it like that?
Yeah. So I have a motion to approve consent items 1 through 12 with the typo correction on item 5 and 11 by trustee Garrison, and a second by trustee Lopez White. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. Okay, association reports. California School Employees Association, Chapter 170, has no report. K2, Teachers Association of Cloverdale.
I know Miss Duvander's
Yeah.
out of town,
Yeah.
so.
We got an email.
Okay. We received an email from Ms. Duvander.
But that was for a
for a
particular
specific
item.
For a
item.
different, yeah, so,
So I didn't hear anything else.
okay. No report.
There.
Moving forward to school reports. Jefferson Elementary School.
Good evening. I have submitted my report, and if there aren't any questions, it stands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Washington School Report.
Good to see everybody. Yes, you have my report as submitted, and I also wanted to just say a quick shout out to the 8th grade teachers who planned such a great promotion, and Casey Berry, who also helped really organize it, and Leslie, who did some amazing interpretation for us for the ceremony. I thought they all did a great job. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cloverdale High School, JEH Continuation High School.
Good evening. I'm Steve Stewart, Vice Principal. I will be sitting in for Forrest Harper, and we have submitted our report. And I'm not sure how this works, but I'm guessing we'll have a conversation later.
I have a question. You may not know the answer, but
Okay.
You didn't leave fast enough.
Yeah, I know it, dang it.
I was just curious if the student board rep for the 2024-2025 school year has been chosen, or how does that process happen?
No, they have not been chosen. We are looking for one currently. I'm not sure if anyone has submitted the application.
Okay.
Yeah. Robin, do you know?
I haven't heard that anyone
Okay.
has, but I don't think it's been formally put out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will get it soon.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Special Education and Student Services Report.
Hello, you have my report as submitted. Do you have any questions?
No.
Thank you.
But I appreciate all the work on the evaluations that y'all did. Awesome job. Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and accountability report.
Good evening. You have my report as submitted. Is there any questions?
No, but the data's looking great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For reclassification. Oh. Okay, maintenance, operation, and transportation report. As submitted? As submitted. Board reports. Trustee Garrison, may you start us off? And we are having simultaneous interpretation, so if you
Okay.
can go slow, pause,
Okay.
slower, and please.
So for the boosters, they just had their elections, and it's the same as last year. They are looking for someone to be the liaison head volunteer for the snack shack for the football field portion of it. They have the basketball, volleyball coordinator already chosen. Also, just a reminder, the AD position is still available with sports. Moving on to the care board, things we discussed are they're going to try to have a booth at Friday Night Live, as well as send out a flyer in Parrott Square, and it'll just be a way for them to share about care and what it's all about and what they do. They're going to have a raffle in the future to raise money, and they're going to raffle off a Traeger smoker barbecue that was donated to them. And they also have board recruitment openings, if anybody's interested. Unfortunately, I did not attend the LCAP final meeting. I was able to attend both the 8th grade promotion and high school graduation. Thank you for allowing me to give my daughter her diploma. I attended the sports awards night as well as the high school scholarship awards night, and I'm just really proud of all of our students and what they have accomplished. I attended Washington and Jefferson's open house. I was able to go to all the classrooms, and one of my favorite takeaways at Jefferson was multiple classes had a writing project where the students chose their favorite part of them and explained why, and it was just really sweet seeing what they chose and why they chose it and why they thought it was important to them. And then in the TK classes, they had done a self-portrait and wrote their name at the beginning of the year, and then they did it at the end of the year, and just seeing the growth of our students was really amazing. So good job to all of our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Garrison. Trustee Addison.
Measure H is moving along well. We still have big projects going. We're going to get our parking and bus turnout completed either by our project manager's birthday or the first day of school, whichever happens first. And our TK classroom project is in for our permits for that, and that's moving forward. And luckily, we got in and got approvals for the funding before the budget outlook changed, because people that didn't have their applications in a timely fashion like we did aren't going to get the funding for those facilities. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Lopez White.
It has been a very busy end of the school year and start to summer. It's been a little difficult to make it to all of the events, but the events I have made it to was Day on the Green at Jefferson, which is always one of my favorites. And this year was kind of somber just because they paid attention to Miss Conway and Miss McCarthy, who are both retiring. So that was really sweet. And there were those two have touched a lot of lives in this town. They've been here for a long time. and we appreciate that. So that was very cute. 8th grade promotion. I was not on stage in the sun with you guys, and I'm not sad about it. It was nice to see everyone. I was at the Spring Sports Awards banquet. We have not had SARB, and I was not able to be at Measure H. And then both Washington and Jefferson open houses, I feel like I popped in and was gone fast. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you. I had the honor to present the scholarship on the award night to the Van Pelt Scholarship to our student board rep, Grace Kedler, who is going to UCLA. Woo woo. Very excited. I also attended promotion and was on the stage, and it was extremely hot. Yep. And graduation as well. And it was both events were really, really well organized and nicely and well attended. And that's the end of my report. Moving on to superintendent report.
Yeah, so a couple of things. We talked about School Street and potentially closing that during the school day. I have submitted on the behalf of the district to the city to be able to do kind of during the next school year, when school's in session, to be able to close that down during the school day. And so we're waiting to hear back on that, but it's in process. I got to, along with Ms. Holden, got to hand out some diplomas at the TK graduation. I will say it's the first time I've been to a graduation where I was taller than all the graduates, so I appreciate that. It was very cute, so that was awesome. One thing I would say, I have Champions is here to be able to give you guys a little bit of report too and an update. But before we get there, I just wanted to recognize Ms. Mills for her service, and we have something for you. So if you wanted to tack onto that, you can certainly do that. We won't say the number of years, but so we're going to miss you for that. But you have a speaking part today too, so you can't get out of that yet. Okay, good. And then if you wouldn't mind indulging Champions, they would like to give a little update on what's going on and introduce themselves. So go right ahead.
Hello to members of the board and Cloverdale Unified School District. My name is Melissa Josted. I'm the area manager for Champions in Cloverdale. I am beyond excited to join the Cloverdale community, and we have received such a warm welcome from our our Jefferson and Washington locations. We actually were able to join the Jefferson staff meeting last week, and we will be joining the Washington staff meeting in July. We truly appreciate partnering with the staff from each school in order to help build consistency for the kids from the school day to Champions. Our staff is really looking forward to meeting kids and families next Monday. So far, now, we had 122 kids enrolled, but I just got another text from my site director. We're at 123 kids so far for summer, and we are continuing to grow. I think the kids and families will be very surprised to see some of familiar faces from the previous provider who are now working for us, and some members of the Cloverdale Unified School District who are also working for Champions. They will also see some familiar faces from the local community as well. As we have connected with new families, we have heard how excited they are to experience our enrichment program. They have told us they're looking forward to learning about our core curriculum, our social emotional learning curriculum, and our curriculum that supports diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have also heard some great feedback around the fact that we have Spanish speakers at both locations and that there will be homework support as needed. We look forward to partnering with the school staff to help to create that consistency for the children from school to Champions. And the families have also been happy to hear how we incorporate kids' voice and kids' choice into our programs. We truly believe in listening to the kids and what they want to make sure they are happily engaged in our programs. We are always open to feedback and ideas from the kids, families, board, school district, members of the community. Our door is always open, and we look forward to keeping the children of Cloverdale Unified School District physically and emotionally safe. And I can absolutely answer any questions you may have.
Just say we'll also be inviting them probably maybe at the beginning every month, but then every other month, probably just to come in and give a little bit of an update and see if things are going. And so, anyway, I just wanted to give them an opportunity to be able to meet with you guys, and so you guys can put a face to the program. And I think that we're just, I think in the beginning stages, we want to make sure that we're giving all the feedback and things that we need to be able to do so that they can properly adapt to what we're asking them to do. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
R, report discussion. R1, Measure H update.
What Trustee Addison said.
Thank you. R2, Early Education Facilities Project update.
Ditto.
As submitted.
As submitted.
As given.
R3, South Cloverdale property update.
Yeah, so I'm keeping this on there just for direction from you guys. I occasionally get asked from the community about what's going on with that alarm that's going off, what we're doing with the property. So I'm kind of would like to have maybe like an answer when people are saying that kind of what we'd kind of like to do as a group. And obviously I'm the spokesperson for the district, and so I just kind of wanted to figure out, I know we've looked at a lot of different things to do, and I know I feel like we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, but I just want to make sure we're kind of all on the same page, basically. So maybe just a little bit of input on kind of what we're thinking at this point.
I can give a little history.
Sure.
I mean, we're growing. The developer fees have been paid for hundreds and hundreds of units. Some of them you can see going. We actually, I'm pretty sure the budget showed we had increased enrollment, not a huge number, but I don't think there's any other schools in the county that can show that. And that's before those are made. We knew this sort of development was coming 7.5, 8 years ago, and that all of our sites fall way below the standard for the size of a site for the school, and it varies. Elementary school requires a much smaller site than a high school. We had a great partnership with the city, searching properties that could meet potential future development needs because the town of Cloverdale is growing. And after a long search, that was the best, very cost-effective property that was available. Had lots of different potentials and still does. So, our sites are pretty impacted, and we have needs vary from sports. We have a growing FFA program. We may need to, at some point, move maintenance and transportation off campus so that we can utilize that space. So we're growing. We're adding 4 new TK classrooms, right? So we're a growing district. There's no more land. The district used to own quite a bit of land in the middle of Cloverdale, but it got sold off. Probably was not a great long-term decision because we would have had a much bigger campus that actually met standards. So that was the idea, and I still think it could serve many of those needs for sports, for FFA, for transportation, even potentially a school. Now, there's no money for an early education site down there at all right now, but I think a lot of those other needs could take some pressure off the campuses as they continue to grow.
Question I have, so was that purchased with Measure G?
Measure it.
Measure
H.
It was Measure H?
Yeah, H.
If we sell the property,
It
does
goes
that
back.
have to go back to Measure H?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it is a long process
Correct.
to sell land, yes. And I'm just trying to make sure that we have the same voice that we're saying when people ask the question.
Correct.
And that's one of the misinformation pieces out there. If that property, if we decided to sell that property, and that may be the decision at some point, it would have been a good investment because we would definitely make money on it. But number two, that money goes back into
Measure H.
the facilities bond fund. It cannot be go into the general fund. It can only be used for facilities.
Correct.
And what
right.
Mr. Sinistraro and I found out at the CSBA conferences was that it's a lot harder to sell a school property than buy a school property, so.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think, I know we've gotten various presentations on building, if we build like workforce housing, different ways that the property could be utilized. And I know Fields has been something that we would, it sounds like either way, we would need to still be investing money into the property to get it to a place where we can build. I've asked this previously, but looking at data and just being able to provide us with more data, I know that I feel like Cloverdale has expanded and brought in different housing units. I know I moved here in 1999 when Luther Burbank housing happened right across the street from the new fireplace. And then there was another Luther Burbank housing that happened across the street from Ace Hardware. And then behind Washington School, I feel like and I'm looking at you, Ashley, because we were sort of in this same age range when that was developed, and looking and seeing if we can get, how many students did those developments?
All those of what they brought.
Yeah, brought into the school site. And also, I also want to know how many students can Cloverdale Unified School District currently fit? And like how many, and it would be looking at the buildings, like the stick and mortar buildings that we have, and also including the portables, although I know that we don't want portables, and those aren't the best those aren't the best learning environments for our students, but they're there. So if we can get that number of like how many,
At one point.
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. At one point, I do remember, and I think it was King Consulting maybe
Yes.
that did it.
We've been given those.
We've been
Okay.
given those, so it might be nice to get a refresher
Well,
on
we've been
those.
given the projections.
Right.
No,
Yes,
We were given the housing.
but no, we were
numbers.
given, it was a
The
presentation that they
previous?
did. They went over
Correct.
all of our school sites, buildings we had, and what
Okay.
capacity we're at,
capacity.
and what
Got it, got it.
what each site, and help me out on
Part
my
of the-
words here.
It was part of the money that we received for the TK facility. We would not have qualified for that if we didn't have hardship for the space that we needed.
Okay.
So they went through all those projections by the formulas. We do not have enough facilities. And so that's part of the equation of qualifying for that funding.
And if I remember correctly, I think out of all of the sites, Washington site was the site that had the most availability left for students. So it would be interesting to see that again
Okay. Okay.
when talking about whatever comes next.
And we got to deduct the stuff where the plumbing's full of concrete.
Yeah, because Patty and I are kind of just right now looking into kind of back to 2000 when a lot of those things came in to see what realistic numbers came out of those. As far as when a development went in of, let's say, 100 houses, how many did we get? And things like that too, so, okay.
And maybe we revisit that after our early learning
Right,
center,
Right.
TK classes are built. I don't know
Right,
how much it'll
okay.
change it, but.
yeah, no problem. All right, thank you, I appreciate that.
I mean, I'm still in favor of continuing to look at the workforce housing and maybe the field space, whether it's one or something. I don't know if we could do it simultaneous together or if it's one or the other, but.
And
Okay.
have we received a presentation for fields?
That
Because
would've
now
been-
now
On
I'm
that
like,
site?
yeah.
That would have been before me.
It kind of,
I
what we
think it was
did.
presented here too, but it's been a while.
Because there was conversations with the workforce housing that has a field with the workforce housing, but I don't know if I've necessarily seen the option of field capacity and what it would look like and how much it would be. Or maybe I was asleep.
I think there was one, at some point, there was one diagram
Kurt Kelzer
plan
came.
proposal of what could be.
Yeah.
I've seen.
And that's where we were, when we got into the conversation about that Dry Creek bed.
Yeah.
and needing that to be moved for that. So, but I don't know if we visited options.
Is that the one we were
of
talking about,
different
putting it down the
fields.
fence line and over that way? Got it.
Yeah, so we have at least 2 or 3 potential options
Yeah.
of how that site could be
And I would say that was like in October, I think we talked about that.
And I think Kurt Kelter was the one that presented
Kurt
that,
has
yeah.
all those renditions.
Okay.
So maybe it's an option to see a different configuration that doesn't involve moving the Dry Creek bed, because that's where I think some of us were a little, I don't know, I will speak for myself, I was a little off-put by how much we would have to spend to reroute a Dry Creek bed and what the process of that was to fit that specific configuration. And I don't,
And there's just no way, just the reason that evolved is there's no way to fit full-size fields without some rerouting. Because
Something.
they tried over years to do
Right.
different layouts that we could fit full-size fields.
Otherwise, you'd have to start digging into the hill,
Yeah.
Which is an option, but
but that's an expensive option.
it's expensive
But if
either
it
way.
were, if we were looking at something that had a combination of workforce housing and a
And-
field rather than
Right.
several fields,
Right.
that changes how you shift things around on it.
One something, I mean, I know every field that we have here, I always see soccer being played on it, and there is no soccer field. So I don't know what regulation soccer size fields are, but I think it's smaller than a baseball field. Maybe not. Is
They're
it
pretty
bigger?
big. They're pretty
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Good, appreciate that.
Does that give you?
Answers my questions. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Moving on to R4, proposed changes to high school graduation requirements.
Okay. So you have the PowerPoint, and I know that you guys got this earlier. So Cloverdale High School is requesting that we change our graduation requirements from 238 to 258 credits. And next slide. I have it? Oh,
Welcome to the boardroom.
okay.
It doesn't work, but you have it.
Okay, great. Doesn't work. Okay.
You might need to turn it on
there
the
a switch
side, on or off.
How come this is not already done? Okay. There it goes. Okay, so these are Cloverdale High School's current graduation requirements. You have the Cloverdale Unified School District requirements and then the UC-CSU requirements. Ours are there in the center, and then to the right is the UC-CSU. And you can see that Cloverdale High School requirements are, in some cases, more than the UC-CSU. In history, social science, we require 3 years. UCs only require 2 years. English, we require 4 years, as do the UC-CSU system. Mathematics, we require 2 years. That is one of the changes that we are requesting, go from 2 to 3 years. And the UC-CSUs are recommending 3 or even 4 years of math. The science is 3 years. UC-CSU recommends 2 years. Foreign language other than English, 1 year, 10 credits of language other than English, and visual performing arts. These UC-CSU requires 2 years or even 3, and then the visual performing arts, 1 year. And then the college electives, 80 credits are needed in electives for Cloverdale High School, and then 20 in PE, that's 2 years. 4 years of portfolio, 2 per year for 4 years. And then also the junior year students do a research paper in English 3, which is a total of 238. This slide shows you the changes that we would like to make. Again, going 4 years with history, social science, and that would mean the Modern California would become a graduation requirement. We currently offer Modern California. The difference is that would now become a graduation requirement. We are requesting to add a third year of mathematics for 3 years now, and then we would like to add 20 units to the electives courses, and we are requesting that those be CTE classes, and we will give the rationale for that here in a second. So our credits would go from 238 to 258. So again, these are the changes that we are requesting. Adding 10 credits social studies, that would be done through Modern California, and adding the 10 in math and 20 in CTE, because we are seeing a huge increase in the number of CTE courses that we are offering here at Cloverdale High School.
But that 20 is not additional.
Right.
That's
It's
just
It's
out of
80,
the 80,
correct,
right? Okay.
correct.
20.
80 credits, 20 of those would be in CTE, correct. And this would be for the class of 2028, which would be the incoming freshman class. So the rationale for the increase in social studies is because by 25-26, California public schools must begin teaching ethnic studies, and so our Modern California class would be transitioned into that ethnic studies class. So we've already started that retooling of the Modern California. We have done some work on that, and so it'll be a seamless transition to go from Modern California to ethnic studies in 25-26 school year. We've already begun that process. If you guys have questions, stop me at any time. All right, the rationale for math, it is a core subject. You can see that the CSU UC already require that, so we want to increase ours to become more in line with the UC CSU system. The other reasons is our SBAC scores are low, and we believe that by requiring another year, that would increase our SBAC scores. Right now, students only have to take 2 years of math, so theoretically, their junior year, there are quite a few students who don't have to take math, but then are required to take the SBAC, and if they haven't had math that year, it makes sense that they're not going to do consistently well on that test. Most of our students do take 3 years, but they are only required to take those 2 years. And then also, we, along with, I think it's Sonoma Valley, are the only schools in Sonoma County that do not require that third year of math.
Can I ask a question about that? When the research was done to get this data, how did you come up with the red circles districts require 3 years of math?
We called around, we looked on their website, and so that's how we found that information.
So were any board policies also reviewed in researching?
When we contacted them, we did ask about board policy, and they did confirm that that is their board policy as well. Yeah. And Sonoma Valley is looking right now into increasing their graduation requirement as well. So they are going through the same process.
I looked up all of the board policies for all of the districts stated, and I have different numbers that I looked up at the board policy on what board policy states. I also found some discrepancies amongst the website and the board policies amongst these districts, that there's those discrepancies, but I did definitely look at the board policies, and there's actually other school districts like West Sonoma, Pivot, Petaluma, Geyserville, and Cotati Runa Park that only offer written on their board policies is 2 years of math.
So, but it could be possible that they approved it and they just didn't update their policy.
Geyserville recently went from 3 to 2 years their last month, and their board policy was already updated. So that is true, and I do think that the information that was gathered, if Colleen was in good faith, whatever's in their board policy is not reflected on that.
Also in consideration for the math is financial literacy is coming down the pipeline of being required. So I just think you should think of that. That should be coming down in the next few years, just like the ethnic studies. Math can also, computer science is also considered a math course. So there's other things beyond the hardcore math that we can offer. In addition, I just want you to know that. It doesn't have to be Algebra 2, for
Right.
example.
Yeah,
trig,
are all
or
our kids
calculus.
ready for geometry as freshmen?
I wasn't ready.
Are they ready?
I wouldn't.
I think the
wasn't.
majority of them are ready, but there are definitely some that are not, absolutely.
Do we have our alternatives?
To
For
geometry?
an incoming freshman who's not ready for geometry, do we have alternative math
No,
programs?
we
that
do
they
not.
take?
No.
Didn't we, a couple years ago, reverse the order of what they
Yes.
were going to take it?
Traditionally, it was algebra. and
Right.
geometry.
It was Algebra 1 and then geometry.
Have we looked at going back to what that was if it's not working the way that we, I mean, I don't know if it.
Depends on how many hornet's nests you want to kick at once.
Well, I appreciate how Ms. Odell said that financial literacy would qualify as a math.
Right.
Because that was a question I had with, this is our first year, and I feel that it was very beneficial and had real-life skills.
Absolutely.
Using daily math. That you-
And that was my concern as well, is students that don't want to take a third year are going to have to take Algebra 2 or trigonometry or calculus, and so this would give us an alternative to a higher level math course for many of our students that aren't college bound.
And my concern, if the A through G requirements require 3, CSUs and UCs, and a kid gets partway through their senior year, and they've only taken their 2 because that's all they were ever required to take here, and now they decide they want to go to college, they can't.
Right.
They can't just go through the normal application process. So I think we owe it to our students to make sure they're prepared to meet those minimums so that they do have that opportunity. Because if they don't have the 3 required by the district, they can easily get to the end of high school and not have the opportunity to go to college.
Yeah, and there were in the last slide, there were 6 students, actually a couple slides back, that only had 2 years of math. So majority of our students
are
are
already doing
taking 3 years. So it's not going to impact them a ton, but, the type of class they take will have an impact on them.
So the ethnic studies and then financial literacy, which is going to become state mandated, those would,
Well, it won't be state mandated. The
well, ethnic studies.
financial literacy,
Ethnic studies will, though.
yes, but not financial literacy. Yeah.
Not yet, but
Right.
I believe at CSBA, they did talk about it.
Right.
Coming down the pipe.
Right.
So not yet, it hasn't,
Yes.
but it was one of their talks. So
Yeah.
if that is something that
Yes.
we're already offering, it kind of fills that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the rationale for CTE, that is the main focus, one of our main focuses at Cloverdale High School. So we want to continue that growth in CTE courses. Almost all incoming freshmen are taking the wheel course, which is our intro to CTE. And we're hoping that by taking those classes, that will introduce them to our other CTE classes, in which those classes are pretty popular right now. If you look at the master schedule of our new classes that we're bringing in 3 sections of each one of those. So those classes are very beneficial to our students. They're seeing the benefit of those. And then there's not going to be a huge effect on on student graduation numbers by bringing in those CTE classes. The
I do have a
classes,
question on
yeah.
that, Steve. So are you proposing that the 20 credits is taken care of by the wheel or in addition to the wheel?
In addition to.
In addition to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because that's just an intro course.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Other courses that we're bringing in through CTE are animal anatomy. We're bringing in 3 sections of that. Floral design, 3 sections of that. And then child development, 3 sections of that. One of those will be an SRJC course. Okay, so the difference between the previous graduation requirements and what we are proposing. So before we had a 7-period day, students took 6 classes, so students had the opportunities to earn 30 credits a semester. 60 a year times 4 is 240. The requirement was 238, so the schedule was pretty tight in terms of if they failed one course, then they would no longer be on track to graduate without some type of intervention. With the change to the 8-period day now, so the block schedule, where we're doing 4 and 4, now they have 8 classes times 5 credits, so they're earning 40 credits a semester if they pass all their classes, and so they can earn 80 credits a year for 4 years, and so that is 320 credits plus the portfolio, 2 portfolio credits a year for 4 years. And so there is room in their schedules now to make up credits if they fail a course. So there's not going to be a whole lot of impact if we raise those graduation requirements on students' ability to graduate on time.
With the block schedule, are we still planning on having the advisory period? So that
Yes.
students can get additional help?
Absolutely,
outside of their-
yeah. We're trying to tweak the advisory schedule. We're finding that students aren't using it as much as we would like to. So we've gone from being pretty loose with it, let students make that decisions, to now tightening up a little bit and limiting where they can go and what they can do. And then the alternative diploma, I think Nicole LeVay, are you? Okay. See, they didn't tell me, so.
Forward and back.
Forward and back, yeah.
Great, thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
All right, so the alternative diploma track slides aren't really so much an asked proposed change as an informational, this is what the state told us we're doing change. And of course, they didn't give us a lot of specifics around that, so I'm going to present to you what we know now. And this is just the language from the SB 114, which passed, and SB 141, which updated it. So to qualify for an alternate diploma track, it would be one of our students who has an IEP and who qualifies for the CAW, which is the alternate assessment, and the IEP team agrees that this is the appropriate track for them. So it's somewhat similar to the certificate of completion, but a little bit different in that the student is actually working towards a diploma. Okay. And the students who receive the alternate diploma remain eligible for the transition program until they turn 22. And they would meet the state minimum graduation requirements. The next year's 11th graders, so that's the class for which we would have to start offering the alternate diploma track per the state requirements. And looking at our current students and their CAW eligibility, we have a couple of high schoolers who might qualify for that, and the IEP teams have started having those discussions. Okay. So we are sort of bringing back our SDC model to support this alternate diploma track and the classes that would be required for it. And the new language for that is extensive support needs. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
I have questions not necessarily on the alternative diploma, but more on the change of the graduation requirements in general.
This
What-
doesn't seem like we have an option. It's like we're being
Yeah.
told.
Right, but
So,
this-
yeah, the grad.
We're just,
the
with the
alternative.
alternative education, it was
You're
just,
just letting us know.
diploma was just letting, basically,
Yeah,
just
so
information.
I just wanted to make it clear I wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't on
Thanks,
that.
Nicole.
It was kind of more.
Yes. The alternate diploma track, we don't have a lot of choice about.
So in other words, they're
although-
going to hammer Steve and not you, you're good to go.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I,
Yep.
Well, and on that too, we will, once we get information on that, that'll be something that the board approves for the alternative diploma, but we're
Separate.
just kind of giving you the heads up before
okay.
we get there.
We'll have questions and then public comment questions, and then we'll continue our discussion and questions.
I guess, okay, so I have a few questions. By changing the graduation requirements and requiring them take more classes, are we changing, I guess how am I wording this? Where's the money come from to fund all the additional classes?
It's
That
still,
are gonna need to be, I mean, I know we're already providing them, but if we're requiring every student to graduate, that means they have to be in the classes. So those classes that are being provided are gonna be more full. Am I right? Am I thinking the same?
Potentially more students would take math, correct?
Right, so
it'd be
then where you need more
students.
math teachers or.
Correct.
So there's
There's that potential for sure,
the
yes.
funding part of it.
and it may just be more math sections, but still the same number of math teachers, because they are teaching other classes like Avid, and so they're, if we needed more math sections, they could teach those as of right now. But yeah, if we get a big influx of students and we need more math classes, yeah, we would have to hire more math teachers.
Okay. So that's just budgetary, I'm thinking about that. I guess that's the one question, the rest of it is gonna be more, not that you have to answer questions, I'll just express my concern about things. One concern I have is that all kids are not the same, they're not all on the same track to college, right? That's kind of why we have the CTE models going to, or there's all sorts of other alternative things other than a four-year college that we are finding kids going to and being very successful in life. My concern is that we're going to burn them out early on. I myself have two very different kids. One I'm sure is going to college. The other one I don't know. She might find something else. Another thing we do have, historically, we have a lot of kids that go to the military from Cloverdale that have been successful in the military. They don't, most branches, I think almost all of them now, they require a high school diploma, not a GED anymore. That might change, but not all of those kids that go to the military are necessarily the kids that are studious and taking every single class for college prep. We're going to limit their options to get into a military service if that's where their track is going. I think we have the availability for them to still go to all these colleges. Look at our graduating class, every portfolio night presentation I was in, every single one of those kids was going to college, a four-year college, and that was awesome. I also think with the CTE, I love the idea of the 20 of those 80 making sure they're CTE. I like that a lot. But I also think the CTE classes might naturally get kids early on to take it upon themselves to take more of those classes once they start seeing, like, especially the animal science classes or ag science classes. Earlier on, they're going to start thinking about college and finding out what they need to do to get into those colleges. A lot of colleges also, it's not always just on your academics. They want to see all your extracurricular things that you've done. Are we going to burn out kids so much that they don't have time to give them that edge to get the other extracurricular stuff done? I myself as a student, I probably wouldn't have graduated college. I struggled when I was with lower requirements. I might have not have graduated high school if this was our requirements then. So I worry about burnout on kids because we did go from 6 to 8 periods a day. We had students in here that presented that, And a lot of what was said and a lot of what was brought on, or their feedback was that they felt like they had more time to do the classes well and have more time, and now we're going to require them to have more academic classes.
I don't think that's true, though, because Mr. Stewart said that you're going to have if that's only if you take 8 classes every year for all 4 years. And if you do that, you're going to be 90 credits ahead of what we're actually requiring. So say your junior or senior year, you don't have to take the full 8 classes, and you'll still meet that. You just have to make sure that you have one of these classes proposed covered.
Juniors and seniors can have open periods, yes.
And that could still happen
Yes.
with having the proposed.
Yes, they have the potential to earn 320 credits, and we're asking them to earn 258. So yes, they do have
236.
room in their schedule to still do those things and have an open period.
And I think a year from now, we have to add ethnic studies, right?
Right,
That's not really a choice.
correct.
Yeah.
We are adding it a year early, but we're going to have to add it in a year.
Yeah.
So really, the only option that we're discussing so far is adding a year of math.
The math.
Which we used to have.
Can you go back to the
We used to have a
previous
3-year
slide?
math requirement.
And now you,
Where it had the 6 versus 8, that one, yeah.
But I do know the yellow box, the reality of
You want that
if
one?
you.
No,
if you
I
were-
wanted to see the 8 versus 6.
The
'cause
yellow
that
and
should-
blue
versus
boxes.
six?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were failing one class under the 6-period system,
that one, yeah.
you had almost no opportunity to make that up. It was like
I-
one class in 4
Right.
years, you're out.
I agree.
You would have
I
to
lived
make it up
that, so-
in
So that's the
summer
nice
school.
thing about the 8-period
I
day.
do see that.
And even with the increased
But-
requirement, is if you don't pull off a couple classes, you still, it felt kind of like all or nothing under the 6-period.
Correct. They would have to do it in summer school. Now we do have credit recovery courses.
Cyber high.
And, yeah, well, it's a SLS right now.
No, I know, I'm saying I have a
yeah,
cyber
yeah.
high.
Is
Yeah.
the student able to take, say we change it to requiring 3 years of math, can a student take 2 math classes in 1 year? Could they do statistics and geometry or
Oh,
whatever?
goodness. I hope not.
I'm just curious, like if that
But
was.
like a junior or senior. who's got-
It's a grind. I mean, and it depends on how many students signed up, right? I mean, so we typically don't offer trig and calc in the same semester because those are the same students that are taking both. And so we wouldn't have enough students to justify a section, to
But
be
if
honest.
financial literacy counted as a math course.
Correct.
And they also were in statistics, that's
Yes.
2 math classes in the
Yes.
same year.
Yes, that they could do, yes. Yeah, but they could also take calc or trig at a JC.
and I understand that this is one of many conversations that we're going to be hopefully having, and rich conversations. I have a couple of other questions of information that you might, I have a couple that you can come back with, or information that I would like to know before we look at any other.
Got the same notebook.
And I don't know why my voice is doing that. I just drank some water. Okay. The question here is, besides the California dashboard, and this is talking about math since we kind of, Modern California CT I also have a question, but that'll be for the next one. Besides the California dashboard, what local assessments is the district looking at for success indicators that they have completed after they've completed those 2 years of math? What other local assessments?
Students also take the STAR math test. So we have SBAC, we have the STAR math test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because looking at, I know that there was a point in the presentation of our scores are in the red, and I'm not sure if adding an additional year as a requirement will be able to address that. It seems like it would be an added barrier for something that we already are struggling with. And if we're struggling, and if we want to have that conversation about how we're struggling in math, then I think that's a different conversation besides adding another year. Also, in all of these proposed changes, what feedback have you received from stakeholders, from your departments, from your students, from your admins, from your parents? Have you received any?
You know, I know that that's been Forrest who's been going to stakeholders. I have not been involved in those meetings, unfortunately. So that would be a question for Forrest.
Yeah, so at our next time that we'd meet, I think that would be, I know that I'm interested in that. Also, in looking at math specifically, I'm not sure what's the need that we're trying to address by adding another year. That hasn't, I'm not understanding clearly what that is.
Go back to that slide.
Yeah, I think if the feedback that we have received and what we're looking at is really our SBAC scores, where we have not done well in math in our SBAC scores. I know that our scores improved this year, but traditionally they haven't been real good.
And so how would adding another year help our SBAC scores?
Again, students taking a third year, if they're taking only 2 years, their junior year, they're not taking a math class, they're taking the SBAC without having a math class for all year, they're not going to see the value in working real hard on this test.
It's like going out to run the mile after you sat on the couch for a year. You're not trained.
So just to add to, no offense to anyone in this, but when we put it that way, it really comes off more as that we care more about what test scores say rather than the student overall. That's just, and no offense, I totally understand where you're coming from, but that's the way I think it can generally be taken by some people because I know mental health has been a huge topic everywhere. Every
We do it.
CSBA conference we go to, there's, no matter what time it is, you can go into a mental health seminar. And I just get a little worried about it.
My other question about CTE, and you all asked all of the other questions that I had about math, was with CTE pathway, are we as a district asking or requiring for students to complete a CTE pathway before they graduate high school with the 20 credit CTE?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
We
but
are
is
not
that-
making that a requirement, no.
Okay, and is that, I know that we as a board have invested a lot of time and have invested a lot of money in creating and making sure that we establish a good CTE foundation pathway, and looking at career and technical education and making that, I feel like that's the direction that we're trying to set, and I could be completely off based on the actions that we've taken. I don't know if adding the requirement of the math is leading in that pathway as well with CTE.
Well, you're providing students, different students that typically, the ones that are taking the CTE pathways are probably not four-year bound. Some of them are, of course, but the students that are taking that third year are looking to go right to a four-year school. So you're looking at all students for these, not just, CTE, you're looking at one population, and for math, you're looking at a different population. But you're trying to provide it
For CTE, the math support, you cannot be in construction if you don't understand geometry. You can't run a construction business if you don't understand math. You can't go be a veterinarian if you don't have strong math skills. And it's about the math that they take. I'm not saying every student should be taking calculus by the time they're a senior. My first question was, what support math can they take as a freshman? Because I was college prep. I would have failed out of geometry as a freshman, speaking from my personal experience. So the math class could be a support math that builds their skills. It could be financial literacy that builds real world skills. It could be construction math. There's a lot of math courses out there. This is preparing people for college and work readiness. It's the global student we're trying to
Does
prepare.
financial literacy qualify as a math course that would count towards a UC?
Yes.
I mean, to me, that is just, I don't want to put limitations on our CTE students, because what if that senior year they decide, I want to go to college, I want to get a degree in this pathway that I took, and now they can't. That's a concern I have, is that they'll feel like even though they wanted to go one direction, now they want to pivot, they're not going to be able to because it's too late. So this is giving them the best case scenario to go either direction by the time they graduate.
Don't some of our CTE classes count as A through G, at least electives, right?
Yes, and to address your CTE pathway, I've been on a lot of these discussions, and the reason we didn't want to require a particular CTE pathway, because even with the wheel, and they can experience different CTE courses, if they got into a CTE class and they didn't want to continue the pathway, we didn't want to lock them in and be unhappy. There are many other CTE classes we have that they could meet the graduation requirement, so we were trying to leave the options open for a student that wanted to pick different things, even though, of course, we want them to do the pathway. So that's why we didn't say CTE pathway, we said CTE credits.
Yeah, and it's leaving the door open to make sure, and it's leaving the door open to not pigeonhole, and I feel like with the third year of math, it's like, okay, now you're having to take this third year of math. And with the data that you're currently showcasing that only 6 students took 2 years of math, students who are wanting to take the third year of math are already taking it, and they're not having, it's not a have to in order to complete in order to graduate from Cloverdale Unified School District. So students who are still going to want to go off to a CSU and UC are still going to be able to have that opportunity. We're not taking that opportunity away with leaving the current.
I'd say that's an equity landmine. I'd say that many students who weren't given the requirement to take that extra year math, then they end up as a senior going, well, I really want to do college now. And it's not an option for them.
That would be
not
another data
necessarily-
point to give us.
When we say that let's say their senior year, they decide they want to go to college, and then they can't because they didn't take that third year of math, that's not necessarily true. Maybe they aren't going to be accepted into a 4-year college right away, but there are junior colleges where, guess what, we're going to save that kid who obviously wasn't the studious one that's going and getting all these classes and obviously going to a 4-year college on a scholarship. We're saving that kid money. They can go to a JC and transfer. So I don't think that's necessarily true in the whole sense that we're limiting their option to college.
So I do want to say that our requirements, and Steve will correct me if I'm wrong, are that they take Algebra 1 and Geometry. Correct. So a third year would be another math, which could be financial literacy, it could be construction, it could be whatever we added, as well as computer science. Financial literacy, while it's not here yet, is coming, and so we will have to make it as a graduation requirement. I just want you to keep that in mind.
I wish we had financial literacy when I was a student, because I took Algebra 1 2 years in a row to get my 2 math credits because I couldn't do geometry. And Steve, sorry, but you guys didn't let me go straight to Algebra 2.
Sounds like I need to check some transcripts.
Check them. Past 2 years in a row.
We can still find them. Yeah.
I'll bring it
They're in the
next meeting.
queue.
And the other thing that Trustee Mendoza-Torres mentioned earlier is just hearing what leadership team and department chairs think of the idea too.
The CTE was discussed in the CTE pathway, and like Nicole said, they didn't want to pigeonhole students, and so it was discussed in their PLCs.
I know, we need Hunter Douglas blinds right
Yes.
there. I understand, and I have been asking.
I feel like I'm really
Kind of like a
bossy.
graduation.
Yes,
So
I would just
But-
I just want to remind everybody too that remember, this is just, these are great
Right.
discussions, but this is just the beginning of the discussion. So I think what would be really helpful for us and for Steve and for Forrest and everybody, is to really figure out what sort of data you would like them to bring back for the next discussion, and to continue this on, or not. If we're not interested, then there's no sense going down that. But, and this would be just not the alternative, the diploma ones, just down the other. So.
Right. So another thing that I would like to see, just because I do know, and I know we've gotten this information, and I'm sorry that I don't retain it all, but I know especially at the elementary level, we have had a lot of students that are English language learners coming in. Is that throughout all ages? I'm not assuming only English language learners are coming in at elementary school, but how is this going to affect English language learners that show up in high school, where here's their high school requirements and they have double the work on a regular set schedule, trying to learn a new language and pass all these classes?
I'll quickly address that. It depends on the student coming in, because if they've gone to school elsewhere in Mexico, we can take transfer credits for that. In addition, when they come in, we do test them in the Spanish version of STAR Math as well, because remember, math is a universal language.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So often our English learners really do excel in math if they've had the background. And it's not as limiting as you would think, because math is universal.
Right.
Math is math.
But that's still addressing that's only addressing one part of the proposed thing, is the math, because we are requiring or asking to up.
And looking at data and numbers, it's like, okay, how many students are repeating math?
And-
How many
I
students
like this one.
are graduating with 2 years versus 3 years? Are you taking that down, Secretary?
It's being recorded.
Oh, okay, it's being recorded. So like, I would, as a data-driven team, be looking at all of those data points from previous years and like this year. Also seeing, I know like how successful students were after college or after high school in college would be awesome to know.
You could also look at the rate of students that matriculate beyond JC.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yes.
dismal.
I was going to suggest that, yeah.
That one, and I know that there's doing some work on that. Getting just feedback with, department, students, admin, parents on this, and getting more feedback on being able to say like, hey, this is the proposed change. What's the pulse? What's everybody feeling, saying? Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be curious to know why Geislerville went from 3 back to 2. Why are some of the people going back to 2? And it sounds like, so I would say that if I could
They want our students.
synthesize a little bit, would be that I think bringing some of the data showing that how many kids maybe go to college, how many kids, it sounds like the CTE one's not even really up for discussion. I think we're kind of all.
I like that.
It's
I
no
do
added.
like that part of it.
Right.
It's just-
So I think on the math one, I think it's just going to take maybe some more data on bringing that back next month, to kind of to support the going to 3. And I think some of the things that were brought up here is how many kids are going to college, how many kids are repeating to get that, or, how many kids are repeating to even get the second year, right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of stuff.
And I think a good data point would be to see,
If it feels like you're kind of under a lamp right now, it's.
Yeah.
Spotlight's on.
Majority of our students don't go to 4 years, they go to the JC. And so how are those students performing
Then
at the
after-
JC level?
Right.
And what courses are they having to take in their first semester? What math course are they having to take?
Right. And how many of them are having to go, I shouldn't say
Right.
backwards, but.
Right.
Remedial type classes to be able to get there. Right.
For a transferable math class?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then just looking at the accurate board policies of what they actually state around the county for the districts. And I know I gave a copy to Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, because I have a feeling a lot of counselors might think it's one way when actually in the board policies may be something different. Or like to your point, they might have updated it and it wasn't really actually put into the thing. So just being able to find out more about that information would be good.
So
And
just
also-
to recap, CTE we're good with, and then the history, social science we're good with, because that's a new mandate coming down. It almost seems like
And that's
the
actually not an
financial
increase.
literacy, if the mandate was here, we kind of really wouldn't have a choice. Right now, we have a choice until we don't have a choice.
But is financial literacy going to be an A through G course?
It is.
The lady who teaches it is right here.
Is it, oh, good, yeah. So having more information about that.
So, I
Because
mean-
it's Algebra 1 and then financial literacy,
But
if I were a 2-year
I
student.
mean, do we still need to have more discussion on the history of social
Well, it's
science?
nothing to do with,
Or we
We're
just,
not
there's no
actioning
action at all right now at all. We're just,
I know, but I'm just wondering, does he need to bring, do we
Good
need more
question.
data on that one and the CTE as well, or are we just focusing on math?
I think it's like a package deal, though. It's all going to come back. I
Yeah.
don't know if we need.
Bring
no,
it
but I
back.
think as far as what he's talking about is more information we need to have
Yeah.
back with those two as opposed to the math one.
Oh, I don't have any questions.
I don't know if there's that much follow-up on the other, on the CTE or the ethnic studies as there is on the math.
Correct, yeah.
Part of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also know Santa Rosa City Schools is doing a lot of waivers based on their A3G
Yes.
requirements.
Do they do block schedule in Santa Rosa?
Which high school?
Whichever one they're doing the waivers on.
I don't think so. But they are an A through G district, so there's a whole nother layer.
But only if you hold them to it.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, yeah,
The bill for financial literacy, they're trying to bring it this November. If it passes, the course must be offered in 26-27 for the graduating 29-30. So if it goes this November, just to give you an idea, it's only like 2 years away.
I think that every student should take it, to be honest with you, whether it's a requirement or not. I mean, from what I've heard from those students, they've learned so much. And I think it would be a disservice to offer their freshman or sophomore year. They need to take it their junior or senior year, because that's when it's going to impact them the most.
Yep,
Good point.
it's life skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to ask the,
Does anybody else have any more, before we, public comment, if you have a public comment, if you can please stand next to the podium. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Stewart.
I think Robin's itching to get in here. She can get in the hot spot with the...
We have 3 minutes for public comment. If you can just state your name, please.
Robin Wilkerson, I am in the math department and I teach financial literacy here at Cloverdale High School. We have offered it last year. And actually, Ginger Garrison was in our class this last year, and she was a wonderful student. There's sort of 2 different things going on here, so I might get 6 minutes. The financial literacy issue. This is our first year offering it. We are offering the curriculum, which is provided by a nonprofit organization called Next Generation Financial Literacy. And they are a nonprofit organization out of Silicon Valley. Somebody made a ton of money and decided financial literacy was going to be their thing they're focusing on. So they have 2 arms to it. Number one, they provide the curriculum free. So we have curriculum that's online curriculum, always updated, very varied, showing you a lot of different things. I'll be glad to share it with any of you if you want to look it up yourself. It's just very comprehensive, real life, and that's one arm of their organization. The other arm of their organization is to get financial literacy 1 semester mandated in every state in the United States. They so far have been successful in about 23, 24 states. Unfortunately, California is not one of them. So, big picture, we're ready. We already are using what is the mandated curriculum. We already have it A to G authorized. So we're ahead of the ball on the financial literacy. We don't have to worry about anything. The one thing, though, I do want to say, it is not, I'm going to whisper this, it is not a math class. It really is a life skills class where there's math involved. And it is not, absolutely not, to be for freshmen and sophomore, and I would even prefer not juniors. It is best for seniors because we have a portion of it that's talking about career, talking about college placement, talking about financial aid and how to fund your college. And that really only works with people that are going through that whole process at the time. We also look into alternatives to 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, trade schools, military, all those things. So far, I feel like it's been a really good course. Where it has not been super successful, to be quite honest, is with the kids that are just in there to have a credit. They aren't taking it seriously and they aren't benefiting from it. So the kids that really take it seriously and interact and benefit from it, I think it's a super course, one of the best courses I've ever taught. So that's my sort of 2 cents on the whole financial literacy part. Any questions on the financial literacy part? Great class, really super good. The other class, I have some notes here from Renee just in regard to the 2 versus the 3 year. Let's see, she's writing the STAR data, the recent STAR data from Washington School shows only 36 out of 116 8th grade students were performing at grade level in math. Only 50% students are passing Algebra 1 and Geometry during their freshman and sophomore years. Preston, I think you had the absolute correct thing when you said these people, if we're adding a year, we're not doing them any benefit to make them take Algebra 2 or to take, data science or financial literacy when they can't do basic math.
Ms. Wilkerson?
I'm done with my time?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We need another class.
But we're going to discuss it again.
Yes, but we're going
This is
to,
just-
we're
yeah.
going to discuss it again. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else would like to come up to the podium
And we did,
to
I
discuss?
just want to acknowledge, we did receive Ms. Duvander's email.
Yeah.
And all read it, so thank you, Ms. Wilkerson, for hitting some of those topics. I did read it.
Mr. Steve, do you have all the info that you need to bring back for?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you being in the sun.
I'm not coming back.
Please come back.
It'll be in the library next time, so there won't be quite as much of the sun in the library.
All right. Okay. Moving on to R5, review of the board survey results. Do you just want me to present? I'm presenting as board president. Would you like me to present here?
Wherever you're comfortable, I'm okay with.
Steve wants you to make you do it up there. Everybody's got to do it up there.
Okay. I can
Looks
do it.
like we might have to consider reconfiguring the boardroom if we're not going to get blinds.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am your board president, Gabriela Mendoza Torres, and I will be reviewing the board survey results that you have in front of you. I'm the one. There we go. So one of the objectives of this survey was to gather stakeholder input and just be able to provide the community, our staff, community and staff, an opportunity to be able to state and just give us feedback. Here's some of the timeline. So we developed the survey in January, and I believe Superintendent Seneshiro developed the survey. We sent it out in February and we actually had 2 simultaneous surveys going on, the district office and the board survey. And then in June, we are presenting the results. We have received 65 results or responses, and all of the responses are also found in your board packet.
Can you tell us who the survey was sent to? Was it just parents? Was it students? Was it staff? Was it the community? Who was it sent to? And could it be taken more than once if you had 2 students?
No. We had it where only one email address could take it. And we sent it out to staff, not students. We sent it out to staff as well as Parent Square for parents.
Okay.
Yes. And then it was on our website too. I mean, people could link if they went to our website.
Okay.
All right.
It was anonymous though, so we didn't collect the email addresses, but it only if there's a place you can click in there in a Google form to only allow one email address to do it. So if they had 3 or 4, they could have technically taken it 3 or 4 times. Sorry, go ahead.
No, great questions. Here we have our Cloverdale, so our first question, and these are the pie charts. There was a survey in Spanish and also in English. So on the left side, you will see the English pie chart. of parents who spoke or speak or entered their responses in English. And then the right side has the Spanish, if you filled it out in Spanish. In the future,
And in the future, I would say we learned our lesson to put this in the same survey and just write it in English and then also in Spanish in the same one, so we're collecting the same data. So that was my error on that.
so our first question is, Cloverdale Unified School District Board maintains openness and integrity with the community and staff. Here on the left-hand side, 43% of them were neutral. 22% of the people that responded were agree. 17 disagree, and there was a portion of strongly disagree, 9.4%, and then in orange, strongly disagree and agree. There we go. In the Spanish survey that we received, 66.7% agreed. Next question was, does the board promote positive relationship with staff, community, and fellow board members? And here, the majority of our survey stated that it was neutral. 37.7% stated it was neutral. 30% disagreed. 11.3% agreed, and 11.3% strongly disagreed. And then strongly agreed, 9.4%. We can read the charts. Do you need me to go over the pie charts, or we can just take a moment? Thank you. Does everybody out here have the presentation? Yeah. Here, our next question was, Cloverdale Unified School District Board encourages community input. 32% were neutral. 20% agreed, 24% disagreed. And in the people that filled it out in Spanish, most of them agreed, or 66% of them agreed. Okay. Cloverdale Unified School Board seeks staff input in decision process as appropriate. So here, 34% were neutral, stated it was neutral. 17% agreed, 24% strongly agreed, and then if you answered in Spanish, 66% agreed. That we do. Okay, Cloverdale Unified School District Board encourages and provides opportunities for professional growth. So here, 43% were neutral, 20% disagreed, 15% agreed, and 11.3% strongly agreed. And then if they responded in Spanish, 58% were in agreement. Cloverdale Unified School District Board encourages innovations that support learning. So once again here, 50% neutral, 17% agreed, 13.2% strongly agreed. And then if they answered in Spanish, 58% agreed. And 8% were totally agree. Cloverdale Unified School District Board encourages collaborative relationships and activities that are aligned with the district's mission and strategic objectives. Once again, 49% were neutral, 17% agreed, and then if they answered in Spanish, 75% agreed. Cloverdale Unified School District Board considers most decisions at one or more meetings prior to taking action, allowing more time to collect information, receive input, and engage thoughtful deliberation. And this was conducted in February. So here, 39.6 were neutral, 22 agreed, and then if they answered in Spanish, 66.7 agreed. Cloverdale Unified School District Board would like to know how you would describe the overall morale of the district. And here, 60% responded that it is improving, 20% declined, 18% said no change. If you responded in Spanish, 66% of the respondents were that they are improving, 25% that there was no change, and 8 said that it was decreasing or declining. And the questions that I would like to ask, and this is when I'm going to move back into my seat, would be these 3 questions. And if we can just go round robin with starting off with the first one, what is working? And then we'll go around and just share out. And then the second one, what is not working? Share out. And then the third one, what is missing? And then share out.
Do you want these in regards to our survey or district overall?
I would say looking at the survey and then the district, where are we at in the district overall? Because the survey questions, I know that, yeah, the survey was taken in February, and we've done a lot of growth, I felt like, since February to now, so both. Before we get to those questions, can I ask if there's any questions from the public to please approach the podium?
Ready.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of have a general comment. I think that this was a really good survey. I think that it's something that we should do on an annual basis because it will be able to show data of where we're going. And we do have different trustees throughout the years of how that is. Also, like you said, what we have done a lot of growth or changes since the survey has happened. And I guess just where we're declining or people disagree or strongly disagree, I don't feel like the comments that were provided are helpful in giving the board direction of what they want to see. It's just negative comments, but it's not giving us any direction of, we would like to see you do this more, we would like to see you do this. It's just, it's not helpful. So I guess, we're trying to do better for the community and for our staff and students, but we're not getting any direction, and we can guess all we want, but then we're just throwing a dart at the dartboard blindfolded and not pleasing anyone, and it's a waste of everyone's time. So I guess that would be one of my comments is, if you're not happy with what we're doing, then tell us how we can improve and give more direct feedback. But just, some of the comments are not helpful at all.
It's the difference between criticism and constructive criticism.
Yeah.
It needs to be constructive. If it's not fit to print.
But I do feel like with what's working, we try different things of, how do we get more community engagement, changing a small thing, changing our reconfiguration of how the board meeting is set up. Obviously, today is not ideal with the sun coming in, so maybe we would have to look at that again, but to have it more inviting, we've changed how we allow public comment to make it more accessible. So I feel like there is a lot of things that we have done with that. I feel like we've added the coffee chats back, so that's helpful. I don't feel like they're necessarily being utilized by the community and staff, but we're trying to make ourselves accessible. And when we are told of events happening, we will go to those. If we're invited to classrooms, I personally don't feel comfortable just showing up at the school site, but there was teachers at our coffee chats that had invited us, and Trustee Lopez-White and I went and visited
First grade during their reading.
Yeah, and so I guess if I would want that to be more, when they say come and visit the sites, I don't want to show up. I want to be invited unless it's like a scheduled, maybe a board field trip or something like that.
I agree.
That's, I'm sure I could have more, but I'll give other people time.
On the comments question that you mentioned, Preston, you're talking about printing and showing the ones that are more constructive rather than just the ones that are just being cruel, basically.
Well, personally, I don't think you should print any anonymous comments.
Gotcha, okay.
If you want to be a constructive part of the process, then be part of the process.
Right.
That's what a democracy is.
Right.
It fails if we don't all participate. But if you just want to hide behind something and throw rocks, then go throw your rocks.
Right.
I'm not going to stay in the circle where you're doing that.
Great.
And, I'm not somebody to not criticize, but I try to make it constructive. So I believe criticism is really important. One of my biggest complaints is when you evaluate somebody, be it the board, be it the superintendent, be it a student when I was a teacher, be evaluating a teacher, and you just tell them how good they are. That's as worthless as just bitching. Like, if you don't tell people what they need to work on, you're not helping them improve. You're completely disrespecting them. So, as board members, as professionals, as teachers, as students, we need to hear what we can improve on. We need that criticism, but then we need it to be constructive so that we can improve. And then I would say, tagging off of what Jackie said, I mean, there was times in the past where we showed up to do things on campus and then people were very upset that board members showed up. So that's kind of why we changed that. And I've continued with this because I haven't been given direction otherwise, but it was policy not just to show up because it makes people feel like, oh, there's the board member watching me. So it's a very fine line. We want to be there, but we also want you to feel supported and not, we're not there to criticize. We're there to support, but it's not always taken that way. And it's the same as an administrator, When the principal shows up in your room, you might not take it the way they meant it to be. Yeah.
And Jackie, on your comment about an annual basis, you're talking about both surveys, right? Both the DO, the district office survey, as well as the board survey. Do you feel like that's a good thing to do an annual basis?
Yeah, at least for sure for the board. I mean,
Right.
And if there's change at the district office, but which there for sure is on the board.
Are you hinting towards something?
No, I'm just saying, like, we've had some turnover.
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
And so it would just be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing is, like we talked about before, is when you do the public for the district office, a lot of them may not even have any interaction with the district office.
Correct.
So a lot of times, that's more probably staff-oriented than it would be.
And reading the comments, it did seem
Right.
like it was more staff-oriented
I would say
that.
majority of them probably were staff, yes. Yeah.
So, or you could tell which was staff, which was
Right.
apparent. But yeah, I would say for sure
Okay.
the district, or for sure the board
Right.
survey.
Good, thank you.
And these questions seem to be good. I mean, we could always add more or look at tweaking them, but these were good questions.
How about the timing? How do we like the timing as far as time of the year?
Well, I'm not sure, was this discussed at the last board meeting at all? I wasn't here. I
No.
was in the hospital.
No, that's why we were
The whole
waiting.
question about following up and having multiple meetings, like these questions, I'm completely caught off guard. I had no idea where we were going with this today. So then we get questions that I haven't even thought about. I didn't know where this was going, whether it was a discussion or what.
Yeah.
So as a board member, I don't know
Not
where this is
prepared.
going. I'm completely unprepared to have this conversation. I mean, I'm thinking about it
Right.
off the cuff right now because I had no idea what this was about. So I completely agree with that question. There should be some time given for us to know what we're going into in a board meeting. What are we?
I mean, I
gonna
think
talk
it's
about?
always good to go, like, I like the idea that we're doing the board survey results, because how do we evaluate ourselves if we don't know how the people we are representing feel about us? So I do like that. I agree with everything that was said on criticism. If it's not corrective criticism, it doesn't help in any way. I like corrective criticism. I don't think it, if you have a complaint about something but provide no example of how it can improve, then it's not worth anyone's time. So I mean, I don't know how you, I mean, if we do these surveys, we're always going to get those, unfortunately. So that, I mean, that's how I feel on that. I think it's good that we have this, and then the way, what I assumed this was more of like, we're reviewing it as a board together of the response to open up an opportunity to go forward to, it's a temperature check is what I look at it as, a temperature check on how we're doing as a board, what the public sees where we can improve, or what's, well, like, I appreciate what's working, what's not working, what's missing, gives us the opportunity to talk about what we're doing and how we can make it better. So for me, what's working, I think all of the opportunities that we are making ourselves available to the public. Coffee chats are great. They're only great if people show up to them, though. And I do feel like we have been very flexible. Like, where before it was always kind of the same time, where we've done different times, different locations, and we've advertised them as, you know, this is for staff or this is for the community. So I think that's, regardless, important to still do those, whether no one comes, because we're still providing the opportunity to be there and to be seen. I do like that we were invited to a class and we came. That was actually the most joy I had that whole day, and I needed it that day. But I think I mean, what's not working, I don't really have a specific idea. What's missing, I think, is more opportunity. So, like, I totally agree with what you said. I don't want to walk onto a campus and say, like, surprise, I want to come see classes today. But I hear staff members saying, come see our classrooms, come see our classrooms. So maybe a middle of the road where we can go forward is, you know, we have dates, like our coffee chats, where we have dates that we sign up that the staff and site agree to, that are days that they want us to come, and that we can sign up to those days. And if it's a chaotic day in that class and it's not the best time, maybe it's something, I'm gonna go elementary, simple as a little tag, green, red, on the door. So we know if they want us to come in, or it's not a good day.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something we can do to be more visible and to be more incorporated.
Yeah, would it be, sorry.
And I mean, you guys are the people at the sites. You guys can give us ideas of what works for you guys and your staff. But I think all of us are willing to go.
Yeah.
I know, you know, schedules, we all have schedules, so it's not necessarily like, oh, we're doing this tomorrow, if you can come, we'd like to have you. But if it's something that we can plan out ahead, I think maybe that's part of a missing piece of something to get us more incorporated.
We've had previous administration that did not want board members on campus without prior scheduling. So it was.
Yeah, I like the idea of having days where we can have
It's
days
like a
throughout the
coffee
year that we
shop.
could sign up
Kind of
for.
like an open day.
I like
Board
that.
members are going to be going around.
Yeah, I like
popping
that.
into classrooms.
Yeah.
And it's
okay.
totally fine if they don't want us to come in.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I
Sure.
have heard from staff members they want us there, so, or
And-
would like to invite us there. So maybe that's,
Good.
And I'd say what's missing with this is like a time for the board to self-reflect. It's really a study session topic. It should be dovetailed with our governance calendar, with our self-evaluation. This could all be packaged together with that and be much more productive, self-reflective.
I still think it's a good, I mean, whoops, sorry. We talked about some things and it gives us all kind of a intro to, or to get us all thinking of things to bring to that board study session too. sometimes it's,
Yeah.
doesn't hurt to talk about it more.
Yeah. I would ditto what everybody else stated. Part of this is being able to be responsive when we ask people to provide feedback. And I know that for sites, it's like, oh, I'm asking people to give me feedback or fill out a survey, and then nothing ever gets done, or it doesn't get presented back. So I think this part of this is being able to be responsive to the constituents and people that responded to the survey, and being like, hey, we are looking at the survey results, we are holding a discussion about it, and increasing our transparency. I want to say what's working, coffee chats, and then I think what's missing, I know for the morning, if we can just have like, hey, they're here in the morning, but they're going to stay like an hour later once the coffee chat, and then just be like, they're going to be here for an hour afterwards, to be able to couple that with kind of like, oh, we're on campus.
Right, and
we're
maybe
already
that's-
on campus, and then,
Maybe that's something that, the site administration can coordinate with the DO, whoever.
yeah.
Or most likely Kathleen, who schedules our things. Maybe that's something they can coordinate together on days that work for everyone.
Yeah. It being like, hey, we're going to be here for a coffee chat, but we're also going to stick around for a little bit.
I would like, we had the survey in February, but we're just reviewing it in
Yeah.
June and having it reviewed more closer to it, because I do feel like we've done a lot of growth or changes in between that time that.
Well, and that would be my question, is do we feel like that this would be, a survey would be good to have at the beginning of the school year, like in September, and then you review it for the rest of the year, or more like wait until the end of the year so that we've kind of had our year and then do it? So
I think it's better.
this year, we kind of just did it in the middle,
I like
right?
it at the end of the year, because then we're going into summer and we have ample time to
Okay.
reflect and how we go to the next year better.
Okay,
But not, I would say do it closer. If you're going to do it towards the end of the year, like April, then review it in May or June. But if you're
Yeah.
going to have it done in February, then you should review it in March or April.
gotcha. So what are we thinking we would like to do, a little bit more like April, March, April, or are we thinking more, what are we thinking?
Let me think on that.
April.
So have it go
Okay.
out in April and then review it in May?
Yeah, okay. Which is pretty easy, because normally we leave it out for a couple weeks, and that
Yeah.
usually gets quite a bit, and then we can do it that way. Okay.
I mean, is it something that should be done twice a year? Or is that too much?
I caution doing it too often, because then you're going to lose,
We'll probably lose the
yeah.
People wouldn't want.
response.
Like,
I've
I'll wait
already
for the
done
next
this, I don't
one,
wanna
or I'll
do it
wait for
again.
this one, or I'll wait,
Okay.
it's just easier just to probably do it once.
And we also do our self-evaluation in July. Well, we should be doing our self-evaluation actually sooner, but
We could start
we're
at
a
the
little
beginning,
off.
But
start at the beginning of April, then give it, do the May board meeting to be able to do that. Good, good.
Yeah.
Awesome, that helps.
And hopefully we'll get more participation.
And yes, and I was going to say, thank you so much to everybody who filled out the surveys, and to continue to look at. I did ask, but I'll ask again for comments. If there's anyone who would like to provide a comment, please come step forward to the podium.
We've gotten everybody asleep so far, so we're in good shape.
I don't see any, but I do want to say thank you to everybody who filled one out, and if you haven't, hang out for the next one, and hopefully we'll receive more. R6, athletic budget update.
I feel like this needs to be brought back. I
Yeah.
couldn't read it.
What's that?
I couldn't read it.
It's
It's cut
just the way
off.
it printed was hard. But I also think,
Okay.
sorry, was I interrupting anyone
No,
on their presentation of it or anything? I think it would be beneficial to have the athletic directors kind of be involved in the conversation about it, or whoever.
okay, so we're thinking about tabling this, so we can,
I'm
because we
fine.
don't really have a
Yeah, that's why I'm saying,
Okay.
I think, because if we talk about all these ideas and everything, we don't have someone in the position.
Is there
to-
anything you would
right
like
now.
us to present differently than what's in there, other than it's hard to read?
I just, at the boosters meeting, I had shared it with the booster secretary, so they had it. I know Principal Harper was there and had talked about how they went out and got different bids to come up with the new kind of uniform stipends.
Right.
And the schedule and stuff, so everybody seemed to be on board, but, yeah, I agree with Trustee Lopez-White that having the athletic director there and then making sure that we share this information
Right.
with boosters and all of the coaches, because it seems like there's a lot of questions of, when do I get my uniform, or what's in my budget, and
Right.
that way there's no question because it's
And we're
being
trying to
provided.
establish all that, but yeah, we
Yeah.
wanted to also be responsive and bring it
No, I
back, because
appreciate
we were
it.
going to bring it back in May, but May was a little ugly, but.
Because
yeah.
I do
Totally
know
get it.
that there was some sports teams that were questioning how much money they had, and I know in pretty much every team had money in ASB or
Correct.
in boosters where they didn't think they had any, but they do, so.
Right, okay. We will bring it back next month. Thank you.
S6, nope, S1, discussion and action. Consideration and acceptance of donations. We would like to publicly acknowledge the CARE Foundation donated 91, the infographic to guide to personal finance for each senior. And Ohio Piley Prince donated $50.75 to the Cloverdale High School. Thank you.
And if I could add, we're still, for the, I know I mentioned this before, but for the JEH Garden, we're still collecting stuff there, so there's going to be more coming for that too. And we just had people show up the last week of school, so we've got a lot of stuff still coming for that. She's still trying to total all that information up, so it's coming.
Perfect. And we would like to just say thank you.
Thank you.
With that,
I'll move to approve the acceptance of donations. That's one.
I'll second.
all right, so I have a motion by trustee Lopez-White for the consideration and acceptance of donations, and a second by trustee Garrison. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. S2, public hearing of the 2024-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan and Plan Attachments. And the start time is 8 p.m.
So as you guys know, when it comes to the LCAP and to the budget, we have to have a public hearing. We can't approve those in the same meeting as having the public hearing. And so, just so everybody knows, is that today is the public hearing for any questions from the public and the board, and then tomorrow is our scheduled time to be able to approve both of those. However, if there's enough questions or needed updates for those, then we might push tomorrow's off to be able to give time to be able to make those adjustments. But it definitely has to be done before the end of June, before June 30th, so we do have some time. I would say what we learned for sure is, especially on the budget part, is to maybe have this meeting a little later in the month in June to give us a little bit more time, because there's a lot of pieces that are still moving around, and this year was a little bit more difficult because we have some people changing districts and things like that too, so to be able to allow for that. So anyway, that's just kind of an idea about why there's two different meetings and why today is just a public hearing and there's no approval part, because it's just a state thing. So anyway, thank you for that. Nicole, how do you want to deal with this? Do you want to talk a little bit about it, or do you want to just
As submitted.
have any questions? So
Seriously, what you'll see is there's several pieces. There's the parent overview for parents. There's the annual update, which updates what the LCAP we just finished. And then there's the plan itself. So if there's any questions that I can answer on the program side of the house, that's me. Budget, well, both of us, we worked on
Right.
it together.
And I would just say that this year, and I wasn't here last year, but this year we had we developed a district advisory committee for the creation of the LCAP to be able to get basically a body that all the different other, your school site, different committees and stuff like that, then we would kind of come and bring all the information to that meeting. And I know a couple of you were on that committee as well. And so we had really good turnout, which was great, especially our DLAC, and our ELACs are getting bigger, which is great. And so I really feel like we got some really good input, and we're going to continue, hopefully, to grow that as well.
I do have a question on the plan.
On the plan.
So, like, for example, on page 180 or page 16 of the 44 pages, here it says, one action that was not implemented was CEL walkthroughs due to the need for a high number of substitute teachers. Is there a plan in still completing those walkthroughs? With the shortage, I know that there is a shortage of subs, but it's important training, and I don't know how else.
So as part of the 3-year MTSS implementation in our work with West Ed, the district will be continuing to build pieces, including a walkthrough tool for the district itself. So as that is built, then they will start happening with the MTSS implementation. So the timeline on that depends on how fast everybody builds those rubrics with the Tier 1 move for next year.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any public comment? If you have any public comment on this item, please feel free to approach the podium.
Steve?
The sun's gone.
Thank you.
Questions, clarifications?
Questions? Okay.
I would just say that Nicole has done a great job with this. Even the county, the SCO has really said as such as well that it's in good shape and best in the county. And so just extend appreciation to her for doing that. She will be sorely missed next year. And so she left us in really good hands as far as that goes. So she doesn't get to take the LCAP with her, though.
The meetings that we had, the committee, they were really interactive. And I thought it was a lot of good feedback, and so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will end our public hearing at 8:05. Moving on to S3, public hearing of the 2024-2025 proposed budget, including reasons for assigned and unassigned ending fund balances in excess of the minimum recommendation reserves.
Good evening. Thank you, and also thank you for honoring my retirement. I greatly appreciate that. 29 years of service to the district has been amazing, and I thank you all for the opportunity to do that, along with the 22 years of board meetings that I've attended. But I have definitely had the honor of working with some amazing staff members, definitely everyone in this room. It's been a great ride, but it will be over at the end of the month.
You did a great job of reading our script for you.
Yes, yes. And with that, I will be presenting the public hearing of the 24-25 budget. And I would just like to preface that with, I don't have the clicker. One area of reflection that Superintendent Sinistrero and I have discussed is the fact that going through COVID and the beginning of COVID was an incredibly difficult time for school districts. We had to learn to pivot really quickly and do things differently than historically ever done before. But it's also created its own challenges, if you will, coming out of COVID and going back into a funding that is reliant only on our personal tax, property tax, state aid. and those one-time dollars expiring, the last of them in September, at the end of September. So there will be quite an adjustment for school districts across definitely the state of California, but the entire nation. So this is a very not unknown budget, but it's a budget built on the assumptions that we know at this time, but they are greatly going to change, I am sure. We will be probably looking at our 45-day revision window. There's a great possibility there. The other thing that will affect us is closing out this year, because we are closing all of those moving parts of those one-time funds. So we'll be realizing, as we always do, with any luck at all, a higher ending fund balance than what you're seeing now. We've also had staff changes. With that, we're working through a pretty crucial department in business services with a sub approximately 2 days out of a week of 5 days. So it's been an extra kind of struggle getting the year closed. Okay, with that, we have our budget report and multi-year projections are always based on assumptions that are known at the time that the budget is written. We base that, the primary bulk of it is on the governor's May revision and the numbers that come out at that time. But with knowing that the end of June, the governor can possibly do something drastically different. So we move forward with what we know at the time, which this is our current year, 24-25, and our 2 subsequent years. So we're looking at our statutory COLAs that are known at this point. We are also projecting our enrollment, and we are kind of, we're keeping our current mindset that we've had for probably the past 10 years with approximately 4 actually with an interim superintendent during that time, but it's a pretty conservative enrollment projection. Also, the other thing that's moving and has not rebounded since COVID is our ADA percentage. We're running approximately with these numbers about a 92% ADA. We normally, prior to COVID, were at about a 95%. So that alone can make some definite changes to a budget. Our unduplicated count, we have seen growth in that area, but that is understandable with economic situations that families are going through. We also see the lottery based on ADA for unrestricted has gone up slightly. It's at $177 per ADA for unrestricted and $72 per ADA for restricted. STRS is projected flat at this point at 19.10, and PERS does have a slight increase in the current and the 2 subsequent years. So all of those factors have been built into the budget and the MYP. Some of the other areas that we make assumptions on, we include step and column. It is budgeted for all of the current and the 2 subsequent years. The certificated work calendar will remain at 186 work days for teachers and 196 for the other certificated members, being counselors, deans, TOSA, speech and language teachers. Negotiations for all units have not been settled for 24-25, and we currently have the annual benefit hard cap there. It is remaining at this point. We also break down the FTE by unit and by year, and we have the current assumption and the 2 subsequent. Books and supplies, we are backing down by the CARES one-time dollars, so you'll see a pretty significant difference there. And those come in state and federal funds, and then we've increased the overall by about a 1%, and that's probably ultra conservative, not knowing what pricing will be looking like. Routine restricted maintenance, we are calculating at the 3% required. So for next year, that's $661,000. So the effect that all of this has on the unrestricted, restricted, and total fund balance. So you can see our unrestricted balance is at $1,081,000. Our restricted beginning is 3.1 for a total combined of 4.2 million. Our revenues we're anticipating through the LCFF calculator and in the unrestricted at 17,266,000. And our restricted have dropped significantly due to the one-time dollars. That's where they'll fall, but we're still at about a 7.6 there for a total of 24.9. Our expenditures and transfers out, general fund, 17 million. Our restricted are at 8.8 for a total of 26,478,000. And you can see the operational gain or loss within each of the unrestricted, restricted, and the total being a negative 1,518,000. With that, the majority is the restricted and the one-time dollars. So our unrestricted is about 372,000. So that leaves an ending fund balance in our unrestricted at 709,000. That does meet our 3% reserve. We have of restricted dollars, we're looking at a 2 million balance for a total of 2.7. And please stop me if you have any questions as I'm moving through this.
Can you go back 2 slides?
Sure. One more?
One more. So that enrollment, and I like these charts, they're much easier to read than this.
Oh, I tell ya.
But it doesn't, you have different numbers there, and there's different numbers in several places in here.
Yeah, there's a little confusion with enrollment. So we actually have to factor in not only the district's number, but the non-public schools and the county number that we get funded for. So the LCFF calculator probably breaks it down the most
Yeah, because on
detailed.
page 15, it shows our ADA at P2 as 1198, but this is saying 1296.
So where are you at? I'm sorry.
Page 15 of the packet, or it's actually page 374 of the board packet, but it's page 15 in the,
Oh, and the criterion standards. Yes.
so is
this-
something's missing out of
So this
that?
is
That's not
district
including NPS?
estimated P2. So that is an entirely different number, and that pulls off of that attendance or Form A, if you will.
Okay.
So that's ADA.
And then
So-
this is ADA plus.
I'll go back to the
No, that's
microphone. So the
enrollment.
projected funded ADA is a calculation that comes out of the calculator. And I believe I have made the statement that the 3-year average has gone away. And I
Right.
have been grossly corrected on that, or definitely corrected on that. It depends on your, so it's a rolling figure from 2020 school year. And if your ADA percentage is lower, it will actually continue with a 3-year roll. So we do see a slight increase in it. That's why that very first year, even though the 24-25, even though the enrollment is the same, we're seeing a higher funded because of that 3-year roll.
So
But
even though our
if- but-
ADA is lower, we're
as
getting
our-
funded higher?
Correct.
Okay.
But if our ADA were to increase and we were realizing all on our own with current year or the prior being higher,
Okay.
we would actually then, that 3-year drops off.
Okay.
It's a strange calculation, and it creates the 1217.45 and 2425, but yet next year, that same ADA number creates 12.02.87.
And what I would say that we've been talking about is we want to make sure that we're ultra conservative on what, so we're looking at the floor rather than what possibly could be. So we wanted to make sure that we built a budget for the minimal amount that we could. And that's why we're using the lower percentage and everything like that too, to be able to paint that, because we don't want to, everybody can increase and say, oh, we're going to gain 100 students next year, and we're going to be at 100% attendance. And that's just, so we're trying to, worst case scenario is what we're trying to make at this point in time. But the good thing we found, the good thing we found out is that if we don't maintain that, that still kicks in that 3-year thing, because we thought that was just done, once we're done. But that actually helps us, but as you can see, it goes down and then it goes back up again. So, and then we also don't, that's another thing, we don't know if that's going to continue next year or not either. So there's a lot of juggling.
A lot of factors,
Anyway, go ahead.
definitely. And we've gone into it with the same mindset that we've basically carried for the past 10 years, even though, as I said, fourth superintendent coming through. But it's the structure of the budget cycle allows us to then see a little bit more of a clearer window when it comes to first interim. Second interim also will clarify even further into the year. So it gives you the opportunity to make those adjustments as student enrollment's realized, as ADA changes. You're allowed some fluctuation in there to catch that up. The other thing that will have a significant impact, again, on the ending fund or beginning fund balance for 24-25 is closing out this school year. As we get further into getting our bills paid, getting the requisitions shut down, we'll be realizing getting sub-costs all paid. By the end of June, we'll see what we have left there. So there are a lot of factors that continue to move.
That one, right?
And to there. So
Yeah,
then
can
we
you go back to again?
Sure.
So here we go from 86.8 to 79, 64.46 to 60.9, 16.4 to 16.4. How are we doing that? Is that
So with
layoffs, attrition, retirement? What's
correct, all of the above. So what we have with a multi-year projection is to let the county know how we're going to continue to meet that 3%. The dollars right now, we've got a couple of pots of one-time dollars that do go into, one goes into June of 28, the other one goes into June of 26. We're exhausting those final pots of money, and this year we're doing that with moving staff into that. So what you're seeing next year then is that those dollars being exhausted, and then we would have to make reductions at that time if that was the identified route. These are all, again, assumptions in an MYP.
And I think to answer your question is it would be a combination of everything. We would have some retirees that we wouldn't fill. We potentially might have to do some layoffs. There could be some, some different things. So certainly. Because I don't think they all fit into one bucket. It would be a smattering of ideas. And again, I think it's important, her last comment was that these are just, the hard part about the MYP, the multi-year projections, is you just, as you can see in the last slide, or a couple slides ago, that the COLA is at like 2-something%. Well, it could be worse, it could be better, and things like that too. There's just so many things that, again, we have to show that we are going to make it what it currently is listed at with our current ADA percentages that we have to do as well.
And definitely due to the tightness of the budget, and you can see by the ending fund balance, it does tighten up, much like it had in the past. Move you back 7 years, then move you back 14. Beyond that, we have weathered it, we have gone through it. So you do have to prove to the county and to the state how you would achieve it, if you had to achieve it.
Is our ratio of management supervisors confidential to certificated? What's the leeway there?
And I believe you're referring to the teacher admin ratio?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're at a very tight line there.
Okay.
Because we did inflate with the one-time dollars some positions, definitely, in administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could see our board meetings, what they're going to be looking like in the next year, for sure. And we're going to start these discussions way early, especially even as much as next month, because the legislature has to pass theirs by June 15th also. And so, and then, of course, there's trailer bills, everything like that, too. So it will be, not only is the budget always a living document, this year seems to be living
Dying
even.
Life support.
And this is the end result of those assumptions. So you see the year beginning at 4.2, and this is combined with restricted, unrestricted. You see the revenues, the expenditures, and the loss for 24-25. Again, that's the bulk of that is one-time funds being received in prior years and being expended past that. So it leaves us with 2.7 ending fund balance. We do move into 25-26 with this assumption and the reduction, as you saw, of the FTE. So we're then seeing a loss of 118,000, leaving us with 2.6. And then in that third year out, by then things have settled down with this particular picture. So you're seeing a net gain of 163,000 and that ending fund balance then growing. The other requirement at budget is to show the reason for assigned and unassigned ending fund balance in excess of the minimum reserve. The minimum reserve being 3%. And with this, it incorporates both the general fund and Fund 17 because it is deemed a fund that you need to disclose how you would utilize the balance. So that leaves us with those two combined of 3.1. Our 3% reserve for 24-25 is 686,000, and that leaves a remaining balance to substantiate of 2.4. Within that, we are indicating that the board reserve would fall within that of 7%. We would utilize instructional materials for textbook adoptions, ongoing programs, instructional materials in general. And the Fund 17 has a set aside for technology replacement and school furniture. And that's that entire balance in there. So it does substantiate all of that balance. The other area, oh, this skewed a little bit. I'm so sorry for that. All the lines, but basically you can see the line of each fund and its fund balance. So the first fund is Fund 08, which is the student activity fund for all of the school sites, and that again is a one-time bookkeeping entry that is required at closing. This is just a arbitrary number from last year. It will change as we close the books depending on the activity that the school sites have had. The next is the Child Development Fund, and I'm sorry you're even seeing that of $13, but we will get that. We will get that closed out, or the next CBO will get that closed out at closing.
That's keeping us afloat. We appreciate that.
That's right. That is right. The third fund is the Cafeteria Fund. We're anticipating $603,000, but again, we have a whole month of ESY extended school year. We have Champions we're feeding, boys and girls, or mariachi camp we're feeding, and that number will change, but it will be still significant, and that is as a result of qualifying for the community program that feeds every child. So we receive, and also the state's funding is slightly inflated at this point, so we receive a federal dollar and a state dollar, and it is definitely being used for its intended purpose to feed every child for the entire year. Deferred Maintenance Fund, currently it houses the deferred maintenance and the high school track and field replacement. We have $911,000 in that fund. Fund 17 is for the reserve for technology and classroom furniture replacement, $425,000. Our bond fund, that basically is just interest at this point, but we will be seeing some movement with, I believe the bus turnout is coming in a little bit less than we anticipated. So we'll be realizing a little bit more of a balance in there, but we'll shift all of that to that TK project.
Don't speak too soon.
I know, I shouldn't. Is it wood? We hope.
It's glued together with.
With the
She'll be gone by then anyways.
With the TK project, it will exhaust all of the bond fund. Capital Facility Fund, that is one that is definitely on the move, but again, it is earmarked for the TK project, and it will be the districts, contribute to the district's matching. The Fund 35 is where the hardship dollars are in. We have received to date about 1.2 million there, and we had 500, excuse me, and approximately 30,000 in there already from the prior Jefferson Portable project that will also be earmarked for the TKK portion, matching portion. And then the small Fund 40, $115, and that's just left over from property purchase and the close of escrow.
I would just say that, if you can go back to that slide, I would just say that these are extremely healthy balances that we've got in here, so you guys have done a really good job of keeping those funds up during really some good times to do that also. So I think that's really going to pay dividends on that part. With the bond funds, I just mentioned to me as it's just, and anybody's out there, the 30,000 is not what we have left. It's just everything else has been encumbered at this point.
Correct.
So we're not showing
Set
that as an increased thing. It's just, that's the interest we're hoping to get on the money, but any interest in that also still has to be spent on bond as well. And so it's not, we still have money in the bond, it's just been encumbered, and so it just doesn't show up on that sheet is all.
These
So-
are truly unencumbered funds in all of those various funds. The other point being, with our ending fund balance in unrestricted, we are not at this point making the 100,000 transfer or the 110,000 transfer to those two funds due to only having the 709,000 and needing 686 as a 3% reserve. So
Is that something?
we are a positive district and positive in the 2 out years also. But with this balance in Fund 14 of 911,000 and the 425 in Fund 17, at the close of this year, if those additional funds are there, then they will be transferred. So that's the other part of close that will happen.
How will you determine which fund gets which amount? Are you just going to divide it equally, or?
That could definitely be at the board's discretion and/or superintendent's. It would be a joint. At this point, we've made the 75,000 transfer into deferred maintenance, but the other two have not been made.
Because those were voted as a board thing, do we have to vote on that?
No, I don't believe so. It's the commitment of the funds for the use of the funds. So they are still there for their intended use. It's just the contribution.
Okay.
And it says because we looked at that resolution, and it also says if it's in excess of what we have, then we would make those transfers into that. And it doesn't mean that we can't, and we feel like there's going to be enough in the remaining balances, as she's saying, once we start closing out accounts to make that. But at this point in time, we wanted to make sure we were completely transparent that there's not those funds yet to make those transfers as in for the resolution, but we're pretty confident those are going to be there to be able to make that. And if it's less than that, then I think that's a discussion we need to have to decide what goes where, basically. So if there's, let's say, 200,000 needed and we've got 150, do we do 75 and 75? Do we do 150? So those are kind of things that we'll talk about. But we're hoping that there'll be enough there to be able to make those.
But by not doing the transfers, we're able to meet the board-approved 10% of the 3 and the 7.
Yes.
Correct. Correct.
Through there it is. So
And really,
there's
those two accounts.
there's the three
Sorry. Go ahead.
3 at the top of that form. right there, and then in the
Do
breakdown
any of these
the other-
accounts are, and maybe I've asked this before, and it could be wishful thinking, can we get interest bearing?
They're all interest.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Through the county treasury, there is an interest post in all of the funds.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason that we have definitely seen the growth. As I'm going in the wrong direction, I'm so sorry. It is very late here. There we go. The growth within those funds, when you have a $911,000 balance, it definitely is earning interest, and it stays within the fund that it earns it. So our
What kind
county
of interest
fund,
does it earn?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of rate?
the rate bounces and varies depending on how they invest for that month, but I know that is definitely an area that we can get you that information. We've had to do that with an audit of the bond fund through the IRS. They wanted to know exactly where the first funding came in out of Measure H and what the interest rate's been the entire time. So the county treasury definitely produces that. And the entries, they do show it, but it's ranging much like, I think it's had a high of maybe 3%, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's still not great like you get at a bank.
It's not great, but it is
Because there for a while, we're getting like 0.4. I mean, for the longest time,
Yeah.
it's just terrible.
Well, and I know we're always having to replace technology, but this year, all the seniors got to keep their Chromebooks, which I think is a positive thing. They are aging, but that sets kids up that, might be able to use it for another year or two. So we will need to be replacing that, but I thought that was a nice gesture on the district's behalf.
Well, most of those we would replace anyway because we wouldn't give those back. We would just basically keep them for
Parts.
loaners,
Or loaners,
essentially. But, because after 2 or 3 years, there's really not much to lend back
Yeah.
as far as those goes, but, yeah.
But the replacement is definitely still under that 50,000 per year that we've been contributing to it. All right. Any questions?
Any questions?
You did well for your last one. Good job.
Thank you.
If the public has any questions or public comments, if you may please stand next to the podium.
So we do the start time?
Yeah, it opened.
It opened at 8:05.
Oh. Me too.
I would just say it's going to be
The
really,
previous one ended, it opened.
yeah. It's going to be
Sorry.
really difficult to lose the institutional knowledge from Patty as well. I mean, her being here for that long and getting through all that, what Cloverdale
phone a
does and what we've done in
friend?
the past is really going to be big shoes to fill. But I would say personally, I'm grateful that she was able to stick on for 1 year for my first year. That was huge. It would have been the blind leading the blind here, but instead it was just one blind guy and she helped me. So anyway, you will be missed.
I think we're all grateful all the extensions you've given us.
Yes.
And I offered again, but she didn't. She turned me down this time.
Any other questions? Comments? Discussion? Okay, I will close the public hearing at 8:35 p.m. Our future agenda items is field use agreement. Our future board meeting dates are June 12th, regular board meeting at 6 p.m., July 17th at regular board meeting at 6 p.m.
Move to adjourn.
With that, I have a motion to adjourn at 8:36 p.m. by trustee Addison,
I'll second.
a second by trustee Lopez White. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And